Princess Vela watches from the high balcony of her crumbling palace as the sky burns with the glow of incoming warships, massive hulking vessels of the Zorath Empire, their dark metal frames casting long shadows over the city below. The air is thick with the sound of sirens and the distant screams of her people, once proud warriors, now reduced to prey, running through the streets as explosions ripple through the capital buildings, collapse in clouds of dust, and fire her home. Her kingdom is dying, and she knows there is no escape, no salvation, no hope. The Zorath have come for the final conquest of Tarsan Prime. Their warlords have already crushed 100 worlds, before this one leaving nothing but ashes in their wake. They do not take prisoners, they do not negotiate, they are an unbreakable force, and her people have no one left to stand against them, no one except for the warriors of legend, warriors who are not real warriors, who never existed, warriors from stories whispered in the dark about an ancient race called humanity, fierce and unyielding ghosts of war who once defied the Empire before vanishing from the stars centuries ago. She grips the railing, her nails digging into the stone. The stories were nothing more than myths. No one truly believed them anymore, no one except for her. A blast rocks the palace, and she stumbles back, catching herself against the wall, dust raining from the ceiling. She hears the heavy footfalls of approaching Zorath soldiers, their deep guttural voices barking orders. As they push deeper into the halls, they will reach her soon. She has no army, no weapons, no plan. She should be afraid. But deep in her chest something else stirs, something ancient, something that whispers of the warriors of old. Run! Her feet move before she fully registers the thought. She tears through the ruined halls, past the fallen banners of her ancestors, past the shattered doors of the great throne room, where her father once ruled, now nothing more than broken stone and shattered glass. She does not look back. She cannot. If she hesitates, she dies. The hidden passage behind the great tapestry of the Tarsan crest is still there, just as the story said, just as her mother once told her in hushed voices. When she was a child, she slips through it, just as the heavy boots of the Zorath soldiers reach the throne room, their guttural snarls echo behind her. But she does not stop. She plunges into the darkness, the ancient tunnels winding beneath the palace, leading to the Forbidden Mountain, the place where the old story said the last outpost of humanity once stood. The Zorath do not believe in the old stories. They do not fear the ghosts of humanity. They believe them gone forever. But Vela knows better. She has spent years studying the lost records, the forbidden texts. She knows the mountain holds something ancient, something powerful. Something waiting to be found. She runs through the twisting tunnels, her breath sharp in her throat, the walls lined with strange markings, symbols, too old to decipher yet familiar, in a way that makes her heart pound faster. The deeper she goes, the colder the air becomes, not the natural cold of stone and shadow, but something else, something unnatural. She stumbles into a vast chamber, the walls lined with towering metal structures, covered in frost. Her breath catches as she steps forward, her fingers brushing against the surface of one of the strange pods, ice flakes away, revealing a face beneath, a face unlike any she has ever seen. Strong, sharp features, scared and weathered eyes closed in deep sleep, encased in time itself. She reels back, heart hammering. These are not statues, these are not relics. These are bodies frozen in stillness, men and women encased in ancient technology, their armor worn yet unbroken, their weapons still gripped tightly at their sides. She has found them. The warriors of legend. The humans. A sound echoes through the chamber, a mechanical hum, low and growing louder. A flickering panel at the center of the room blinks to life, ancient words scrolling across the screen, words she does not understand. But one thing is clear: as the frost begins to melt, as the pods begin to hiss and groan, as the figures within begin to stir, she has awakened something that was never meant to sleep. Hunted, Vela stumbles through the darkness of the ancient chamber, her breath sharp, her heart pounding like a war drum. She barely has time to process what she has found. The frozen warriors of legend, the humans, myths that had been whispered in secret for generations, were real, and she had awakened them. But there is no time to think, no time to marvel, because the Zorath are coming. And if they find her here, they will kill her before she can understand what she has unleashed. She spins toward the tunnel. She came from straining her ears, listening for the sound of boots on stone. She knows they will not be far behind. Zorath hunters never lose their prey. The Empire does not allow it. Once they set their sights on someone, that person does not escape. And yet she refuses to die here in the dark, surrounded by ghosts. She forces herself to move, slipping between the towering cryogenic pods, trying to find another exit. A flickering light from the control panel casts long, eerie shadows against the frost-covered glass, making the sleeping warriors appear as if they are watching her from behind the ice. A hiss breaks the silence, and Vela freezes her eyes, darting to the pod nearest to her. A thin crack splinters across the frozen glass as warm air seeps into the chamber. Another hiss, then another, the sound growing louder as the ancient machinery shudders to life. The room fills with a thick mist as steam billows from the cracks in the pods, and Vela realizes with a jolt of fear and awe that she has done something irreversible. She has awakened them. A guttural voice echoes through the tunnels. Zorath hunters close by barking orders to spread out, search the ruins, find the girl, and kill her. The words send a spike of cold terror through Vela. She presses herself against the nearest pod, holding her breath, the mist swirling around her, the glass behind her shifting as the figure inside begins to stir. Then a sound behind her, low and mechanical, a deep inhale. As the pod releases its final seal, she feels the temperature shift, the air becoming charged with something electric, something ancient, the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. She does not turn around. She cannot. She is too afraid of what she will see. Boots scrape against the stone. The Zorath are almost here. She can see the glow of their energy weapons, reflecting off the icy walls, their shadows stretching toward her. She grips the hilt of the small dagger at her waist, but she knows it will not be enough. She is out of time. A voice speaks behind her, low, rough, edged with something cold and dangerous. Identify yourself. Vela spins her breath, catching the figure before her, towering over her, in worn battle armor, the frost still clinging to his broad shoulders, his face sharp with age and scars, his piercing eyes locking onto her with the weight of 1,000 battles behind them. More hissing sounds fill the chamber as the other pods begin to open, figures stepping forward, each one a relic of war frozen in time. The Zorath hear the movement and turn, their weapons raised, but they do not fire, not yet. They do not understand what they are looking at. They do not realize that in this moment, something has shifted, something has changed forever. The warrior before Vela tilts his head, slightly taking in the scene. In an instant, his gaze sharpens, his body tenses, his voice calm, but edged with steel. Hostiles. Vela barely has time to react before he moves faster than anything she has ever seen. His hand snaps forward, grabbing a weapon from the nearest rack, a sleek black rifle covered in dust and ice, and before the Zorath can react, he fires. The shot echoes through the chamber, bright and violent. A soldier drops instantly, a hole burned clean through his chest. The others hesitate, just for a second, but it is a second too long. Because the others have awakened. The chamber erupts into chaos. More warriors step forward, eyes blazing, weapons in hand, moving like wolves among sheep. The Zorath try to fight back, but it is no use. These are not ordinary soldiers. These are not rebels. These are something else entirely. They are the legends, the ghosts, the warriors who were never meant to return. And now they have. Rows of cryogenic pods stand before Vela, stretching into the darkness, each one a relic of an ancient war, each one containing a figure lost to time. The mist swirls around her feet, the air thick with the scent of frost and something else, something old, something dangerous. The humans are awake, their eyes sharp, their movements precise despite centuries of sleep, and the Zorath soldiers in the tunnel are beginning to understand that they have made a mistake. The first shot has already been fired. The lifeless body of a Zorath soldier collapses to the ground, steam rising from the smoldering wound in his chest. His comrades hesitate, but only for a second. Then the air erupts in fire and chaos. Energy blasts slice through the chamber, cutting through metal and stone. Vela ducks behind one of the now empty pods, her pulse pounding in her ears. She should run, she should hide, but she cannot take her eyes off the scene before her. The humans move like nothing she has ever seen, not like Tarsan warriors, not even like Zorath elites. They are faster, sharper, every motion, calculated for maximum efficiency, no wasted effort, no hesitation. The warrior who had spoken first, Captain Dorian Kane, is already in the center of the battle, his rifle held steady, his stance unwavering, as Zorath charges at him, blade drawn. But before he can get close, Kane sidesteps so smoothly, it almost seems like a dance. He slams the butt of his rifle into the alien's throat, grabs the fallen blade in midair, and drives it into the next attacker without ever breaking his stride. More humans awaken, stepping out of their pods, their weapons still coated in frost, yet they wield them as if they had never stopped fighting. A female soldier with a scar running across her cheek lifts a massive rifle, barely aiming before she pulls the trigger. A burst of fire rips through 3 Zorath, at once their bodies hitting the floor in unison. Another warrior moves in silence, a long knife flashing through the air, leaving nothing but blood and death in his wake. Vela has seen war before. She has watched her people fight. She has fought herself. But this is something else. This is not war, this is annihilation. A Zorath officer screams into his communicator, calling for reinforcements. The humans hear him. Kane moves like lightning, grabbing the officer by the throat and slamming him against the wall. His voice is calm, too calm. How many soldiers are coming? The Zorath gasps, choking, struggling to reach for his weapon. Kane does not give him the chance. His grip tightens, his knuckles white. I asked you a question. The officer gurgles out an answer. 50, maybe more, maybe 100. Kane does not react, not even a flicker of concern. He simply nods. And then without hesitation, he snaps the Zorath's neck and lets the body fall to the ground like a discarded tool. Vela forces herself to breathe, forces herself to move, her mind racing. If reinforcements are coming, they do not have much time. Even if these humans are as deadly as the stories claim, they are still outnumbered. They need a plan. She steps forward, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding her. We cannot stay here. More are coming. The Zorath will send everything they have once they realize what you are. Kane turns to her for the first time, his piercing gaze locking onto hers. And for a moment she wonders if she has just made a mistake. His expression is unreadable, cold, detached, assessing. And what exactly are we? Vela swallows hard. Legends, she says, simply myths, ghosts. Kane tilts his head, just slightly considering, then a small smirk plays at the corner of his mouth. Ghosts, how well, sweetheart, you just woke the dead. A rumble shakes the chamber, distant, but growing closer, the sound of approaching warships. Zorath are not wasting time, they are coming with everything. Kane looks to his soldiers. They do not speak, they do not need to. In perfect unison, they reload their weapons, adjust their armor, prepare for the next battle, as if this is all routine, as if they have been waiting centuries for this moment. He turns back to Vela, his voice calm, his expression deadly. Then I suppose it is time to remind the galaxy what ghosts can do. The distant rumble grows louder, vibrating through the ancient walls, dust trickling from the ceiling as the Zorath reinforcements draw closer. The sound of marching boots echoes through the tunnels, the heavy clanking of armored war beasts shaking the ground. Vela knows what comes next. Orbital bombardment, swarms of shock troops, waves of destruction meant to erase all traces of resistance. But this time they do not know what they are walking into. Kane does not flinch. His soldiers do not hesitate. They move with terrifying efficiency, stripping weapons from the fallen Zorath, checking ammunition, adjusting armor. They have been awake for only minutes, and yet they move as if they never stopped fighting, as if the centuries in ice were nothing more than a blink. Kane gestures toward one of his men, a towering brute with a cybernetic arm. The soldier nods, pulls a device from his belt, and slams it against the nearest console. What are you doing? Vela asks, stepping closer. Mapping the exits, Kane says calmly, we are not dying in this hole. Vela clenches her fists. We need to get to the surface, but the Zorath will have gunships ready if we are caught in the open. We are not getting caught. Kane interrupts, his voice, even his focus already elsewhere. He glances at his squad. They understand without words, moving to position, ready for what comes next. Vela has fought her whole life, has studied war strategy tactics. She has spent years resisting the Zorath, and yet she feels like an amateur standing next to them, watching them work. She has seen disciplined warriors before, But this is something else, something colder, sharper. These are not just soldiers, these are weapons honed to perfection. The device on the console beeps, the cybernetic soldier grunts. Found us a way out, a maintenance shaft leads straight to the surface. Kane nods. Good, we move now before they get smart. Vela hesitates, her mind racing. Even if they escape through the shaft, there will still be too many Zorath forces outside, but she has no time to argue. The sound of metal grinding fills the chamber. The sealed blast doors at the tunnel entrance start to open. The Zorath have arrived. Move, Kane commands. The humans break into motion without hesitation, covering their exit as they retreat through the shaft. One by one, they climb into the narrow passage, the walls damp with condensation. Vela grips the metal rungs, climbing fast, her muscles burning with every movement. Below her, she hears the first burst of gunfire, the sharp screams of dying Zorath. She forces herself to keep moving, the shaft stretching endlessly above them. Kane is the last to climb, pausing just long enough to toss a small spherical device back into the chamber. He presses a button without looking back. A deep explosion roars from below, the heat rushing past them as the shockwave shakes the shaft. The entire tunnel system groans under the force. Vela pulls herself onto solid ground, gasping for breath, the cold night air biting against her skin. The others emerge behind her, weapons ready, scanning the perimeter. The ruins of the old human outpost stretch before them, a field of broken structures, shattered towers, long abandoned beneath a sky filled with enemy warships. "We are exposed here," Vela says, her voice urgent. "We need cover now." Kane does not look at her, his attention on the horizon, watching the flickering lights of Zorath's search parties sweeping through the ruins. He turns to one of his soldiers, a woman with dark, piercing eyes and a long rifle slung across her back. "Rain, find us a vehicle. We need to get out of here before they box us in." Rain nods, vanishing into the ruins. Without a word, another soldier, a lean man with a jagged scar running down his jaw, steps forward. "We need to move fast, Captain. They are deploying heavies, gunships inbound." Kane nods calmly before turning to Vela, his expression unreadable, his voice steady. "You said the Zorath took everything from you. What about your people? Is there anyone left?" Vela swallows hard, gripping the hilt of her dagger tightly. "The resistance is scattered, but we are not broken. If we can get to our outposts, we can rally them. But we need weapons, ships, supplies." Kane studies her for a long moment, then his smirk returns. "Good, because we are going to take everything they have and burn the rest to the ground." A sharp whistle cuts through the night. Rain returns, swinging onto the seat of a rusted but functional hover transport, the engine roaring to life. She jerks her head toward them. "Ride is ready." Without another word, Kane climbs aboard, the others following suit. Vela hesitates for only a moment before pulling herself onto the vehicle, as well, her heart pounding as the transport kicks forward, speeding into the night, away from the ruins, away from the past, and straight into war. The hover transport speeds across the ruined landscape, kicking up dust and debris as it cuts through the darkness. Vela grips the edge of the vehicle, her knuckles white, the wind whipping through her hair, her mind racing. Everything is happening too fast. She has spent her whole life fighting the Zorath, has spent years resisting their rule, and yet in mere moments these humans, these ghosts of legend, have done more damage to the Empire than her people have in decades. Kane sits at the front of the transport, his expression unreadable, his rifle resting across his lap. His soldiers are eerily calm, adjusting their gear, checking ammunition, moving with the quiet precision of predators before a hunt. Vela watches them, trying to understand, trying to piece together who they really are, what they really are. She leans closer to him, her voice low. "So the others do not hear. You woke up in a war. You do not understand, yet you do not hesitate. Why?" Kane does not look at her, his eyes scanning the horizon as he answers. "War is war. Does not matter who is fighting. It does not matter when the rules do not change." His voice is steady, unwavering, as if he has already accepted the fight, as if he has already decided the outcome. Vela exhales, shaking her head. "You do not understand what you are up against. The Zorath are not just soldiers, they are an empire. They will not stop until they have crushed you." Kane finally turns his gaze toward her, his expression unreadable. "Crushed us," he repeats, as if testing the words, as if they are something foreign, something impossible. Vela swallows hard. Yes, they wiped out entire civilizations in their path. They burned entire worlds. Then why are they afraid of us? Kane interrupts, his voice calm, but edged with something sharp. Vela freezes, her breath catching in her throat. She has never thought of it like that, never considered that despite their overwhelming power, despite their endless armies, despite their absolute control, the Zoroth have always feared the humans. Why else would they have erased all records of them? Why else would they have buried the stories, turned them into myths? A flicker of realization crosses her face, and Kane sees it. He smirks slightly before turning his attention back to the horizon. We need a base of operations, Kane says flatly. Weapons, supplies, people. We hit them hard and fast, keep them off balance, take what we need, burn the rest. Where is the closest resistance outpost? Vela hesitates. She has spent years keeping the locations of the resistance hidden from the Zoroth, revealing them now even to these warriors, even if they are her only hope, feels like a betrayal. Kane watches her, waiting, patient but unwavering. She exhales, finally making her decision. North, past the dead river, an abandoned refinery. We use it as a supply hub and fallback point. But if the Zoroth have found it, then we take it back, Kane says simply, as if it is not even a question, as if failure does not exist in his mind. The transport speeds through the wastelands, the ruined remains of old battles scattered across the ground, broken machines, rusted weapons, long-abandoned skeletons of warships half buried in the sand. Vela has passed through here before, but this time something feels different. The air feels charged, alive, as if the planet itself knows that something has changed. The refinery comes into view in the distance, a massive structure of rusted metal and cracked towers, once a center of industry, now little more than a husk, but it is not. Empty figures move in the shadows, patrols circling the perimeter, Zoroth soldiers stationed at every entrance. Vela curses under her breath. They are already here. They must have tracked our movements. If we go in now, it is suicide. Kane simply grins. Then let's make sure they never see us coming. He turns to his squad, issuing orders with sharp efficiency. Rain, take the high ground. Revik, set up charges at the southern entrance. Juno, with me we go in quiet. Vela, you stay here, keep the engine running. If things go bad, we need a fast exit. Vela glares at him. I am not staying behind. This is my fight too. Kane's smirk widens. Then prove it and keep up. Without another word, he and his team slip into the darkness, moving like wraiths, their forms disappearing into the night, leaving Vela gripping her dagger, heart pounding, as she realizes she is about to witness firsthand what happens when legends go to war. The air is thick with tension, the refinery looming ahead, its rusted towers casting jagged shadows against the night sky. Zoroth patrols march in tight formation, their heavy boots crunching against the metal grates, their weapons gleaming under the harsh floodlights. Vela watches from her position, heart pounding, every instinct screaming that this is suicide. There are too many guards, too many watchtowers, too many ways for this to go wrong. But Kane and his soldiers move with the calm precision of hunters, slipping through the darkness unseen, unheard. Rain is already in position, high above, nestled in the skeletal remains of a collapsed crane. Her rifles steady, her breathing slow through Vela's earpiece. Her voice comes through soft and cold. 3 on the east walkway, 2 more at the main gate, another one circling back in 10. Kane's response is immediate. Revik, set charges at the south entrance. We need a distraction. Juno, with me we take the west guard post first. Vela, stay low, stay quiet, and do exactly what I say. Vela bristles at the command. She is not some untrained civilian, she has fought for years. But before she can argue, Kane and Juno are already moving, slipping through the outer fence, weaving through the stacks of rusted crates. They move so fast, so fluid, that the Zoroth do not even notice until it is too late. Juno strikes first, a shadow among shadows, a flash of silver as her knife finds a throat, a gurgled gasp, a body hitting the ground. Kane follows instantly, grabbing another soldier, yanking him backward into the dark, a quick, brutal snap of the neck, and he is gone before his partner can even turn around. Vela watches in stunned silence. They are not just warriors, they are ghosts moving through the enemy with terrifying efficiency. Revik's voice crackles through the comms. Charges are set, ready to blow on your mark. Kane waits a single beat, his gaze locked onto the refinery's command tower. That is where they need to be, that is where they take control. Now, the explosion rips through the night, a shockwave of fire and steel blasting through the southern gate alarms, whale floodlights swing wildly in every direction. Zorath soldiers scramble into formation, barking orders, preparing for an attack. But they do not know where to look, they do not know what is coming. Cain and Juno use the chaos slipping through the smoke like wraiths picking off scattered guards before they can regroup. Rain's rifle cracks, once, twice, 3 times, each shot perfectly placed, dropping enemies before they even realize they are being targeted. Vela does not hesitate now. Gripping her dagger, she moves forward, keeping low, her pulse hammering in her ears. She is no ghost, no legend, but she will not be left behind. She follows Cain up a rusted staircase, dodging past a stunned Zorath guard before driving her blade deep into his side. He gasps, stumbles, but she twists hard, dragging him down into the shadows before his allies see. Cain glances at her just for a second, a flicker of approval in his otherwise cold expression. Then he is moving again, picking open the door to the command tower, storming inside before the Zorath officers can even react. Gunfire erupts the confined space, filling with the sharp scent of burning plasma. Cain and Juno cut through the room like a storm. Revik bursts in from the opposite entrance, a grenade rolling from his fingertips, a flash, a deafening boom, bodies hitting the ground before the smoke even clears. Vela grips the edge of the console, catching her breath as the refinery security feeds flicker across the screens. The remaining Zorath soldiers are scattered, disoriented. They are losing and they know it. Cain steps forward, his rifle still smoking, and taps into the refinery's comm system, his voice calm, steady, carrying across the entire complex. Attention Zorath personnel, this facility is no longer under your control. Lay down your weapons and walk away, or do not walk at all. Silence stretches across the comms, then scattered shouts, then gunfire, then nothing but the sound of boots retreating into the night. Vela exhales, shaking her head in disbelief. They are running, they are actually running. Cain turns to her, his expression unreadable, but his voice carries something almost amused. Told you they were afraid. The refinery is theirs, the air still thick, with smoke, the scent of burning metal, mixing with the sharp tang of ozone. Vela watches the last of the Zorath forces retreating into the wasteland, their once rigid formations broken, their discipline shattered. Cain stands at the command console, his expression unreadable as he scans the monitors. The refinery's defenses are offline, the security grid is compromised, the enemy is routed, and yet he does not look satisfied. Revik leans against the wall, reloading his rifle, shaking his head. That was too easy, they barely put up a fight. Because they were not expecting us, Juno mutters, checking her blade for blood, wiping it against the sleeve of a fallen officer. They thought they were securing a minor outpost, not fighting legends. Rain's voice crackles through the comms. We have incoming 3 gunships fast approaching east side. Vela tenses her stomach, twisting. The Zorath never run, not unless they have something bigger coming. Cain does not even hesitate. Revik, Juno, get to the anti-air cannons, see if they are still operational. Rain, keep them in your sights. Vela, with me, we need to secure the armory. Vela clenches her fists. This is moving too fast. They should be retreating, regrouping, not standing their ground. But Cain strides forward without hesitation, and something in her refuses to be left behind. She follows, her boots echoing against the metal grates as they descend into the lower levels of the refinery. The armory is a vault, reinforced doors, thick steel plating, a last resort defense meant to keep weapons from falling into enemy hands. But Cain moves with certainty, pressing his palm against the console, overriding the security. Lock the doors, hiss open, revealing row upon row of rifles, explosives, heavy artillery, more firepower than the resistance has seen in years. Vela's breath catches. How did you? Cain does not answer. Instead, he steps inside, pulling weapons from racks, checking their condition, tossing a rifle toward her. Arm yourself, we're going to need it. She catches it, still reeling, as he moves deeper into the vault, his hands running across the crates until he stops, his gaze locking onto a sealed container. Unlike the others, its markings faded, but unmistakable, human military issue. Vela steps closer. What is that? Kane's jaw tightens. An old friend, he mutters, prying the crate open. Inside are sleek black cylinders, compact but deadly. He lifts one, inspecting it with something close to reverence. Hellfire charges. Vela has heard of them, weapons of legend, just like the humans themselves, that energy output enough to melt through Zorath battleship hulls, a relic from a war that should have ended centuries ago. Kane smirks, locking eyes with her. Now we are ready. A deep rumble shakes the refinery, dust raining from the ceiling. The gunships are here, their searchlights sweeping across the ruins, their cannons primed. Vela grips her weapon, heart pounding. We need to get to cover. Kane's comms buzz. Juno's voice, sharp cannons are up. Give us a clear shot and we will take them down. Kane taps his earpiece. Understood, stand by. He moves to the control panel, flipping through the refinery's power grid, his fingers flying across the screen. Vela watches, confused, until suddenly the floodlights die, the entire facility plunging into darkness, only the distant glow of the gunships cutting through the night. The Zorath pilots hesitate, momentarily thrown off their targeting, disrupted, and in that second of uncertainty, Kane moves. Now Juno. The sky erupts in fire. The first anti-air cannon roars to life, a streak of plasma slamming into the nearest gunship, its hull detonating in a violent explosion, metal and flame raining down onto the refinery below. The second gunship veers off course, trying to evade, but Rain is already locked onto it, her sniper round piercing through the cockpit, a direct hit. Vela grips the console, watching in stunned awe. The Zorath are losing again, outmaneuvered, outclassed, overwhelmed. The final gunship pulls back, engines roaring as it turns toward the sky, retreating into the clouds, fleeing. Kane watches it go, his expression unreadable. Then he turns to Vela, his voice calm, but edged with something dangerous. Tell me where the next outpost is. Vela hesitates, but only for a moment. The refinery was never the end, it was just the beginning. And for the first time in her life, she believes they might actually win. The refinery still burns in the distance, smoke rising into the night sky, the wreckage of Zorath gunships scattered across the wasteland. But there is no time to celebrate, no time to rest. Kane and his squad move with purpose, gathering supplies, loading weapons, preparing for what comes next. Vela watches them, every movement calculated, efficient. These are not soldiers fighting for survival. These are predators preparing for the next hunt. She steps closer to Kane, her voice low. The next outpost is in the abandoned city of Kayla, deep in Zorath-controlled territory. If we go there, we will be walking into the heart of their occupation. Kane does not even blink. Then that is where we go. Vela tightens her grip on the rifle she took from the armory. You are insane. The Zorath have hundreds of troops stationed there, air support, ground artillery. Kayla is a death trap. Kane smirks, unfazed. Then we will make it their grave. Before she can argue further, Rain's voice cuts through the comms. We have movement northwest, small caravan, looks like resistance fighters, but they are not broadcasting any signals. Vela's breath catches, her heart pounding. If it is her people, they are in danger. If the Zorath have tracked them, they will be wiped out. Kane does not hesitate. Move out now. The transport roars to life, tearing across the wasteland, the ruined landscape blurring past. Vela grips the side, her pulse hammering. This is reckless, even for them. But Kane sits at the front, unmoving, rifle resting across his lap, eyes locked on the horizon. Minutes later, the caravan comes into view, battered vehicles, patched armor, weary fighters, their faces streaked with dirt and exhaustion. But Vela recognizes them instantly, her people. She leaps from the transport before it even fully stops, sprinting forward as the resistance fighters raise their weapons, startled until recognition flashes across their faces. Vela. A man steps forward, older, his face lined with scars, his armor mismatched from years of scavenging. Commander Relvek, one of the last leaders of the resistance, still standing. Vela gasps for breath. We took the refinery. It is ours. The Zorath are pulling back for now. Relvek stares at her in disbelief. How? Kane steps beside her, arms crossed, his presence impossible to ignore. We killed them all, took their weapons, took their base, and we are about to take a whole lot more. The resistance fighters exchange uneasy glances, whispers spreading through the group. They know the stories, they know the legends, and now they are looking at them standing in the flesh. Relvek's eyes narrow, his voice careful. The Zoreth wiped out humanity centuries ago. You expect me to believe you just crawled out of the grave? Kane tilts his head slightly, considering. Then he gestures toward the burning wreckage of the gunships in the distance. Believe whatever you want, just decide fast, because we are hitting Kayla next, and I do not have time to convince you. Vela watches Relvek's face, sees the doubt, the hesitation, but also the spark of something else, something she has not seen in a long time: hope. Relvek exhales deeply, then nods, turning to his fighters. We move now. The caravan joins the convoy vehicles, falling into formation as they race toward Kayla. The journey long, treacherous, through crumbling highways and shattered ruins. Zoreth patrols scan the skies, but Kane and his team keep them moving, keep them hidden. As dawn breaks, Kayla rises in the distance, once a thriving metropolis, now a fortress, its towering spires crawling with enemy forces, its streets filled with armored convoys and mechanized walkers. Vela swallows hard, scanning the city from their vantage point. This is impossible, there are too many of them. Kane stands beside her, quiet, calculating. Then he turns to his squad, his voice calm. We are not here to fight them head on, we are here to destroy them from the inside. Rain grins, already guessing what he means. Juno smirks, cracking her knuckles. Revik exhales, shaking his head but smiling. Vela watches them, a chill running through her spine. Whatever happens next will change everything forever. The ruins of Kayla stretch before them, a city of metal and fire, its towering spires wrapped in Zoreth banners, its streets crawling with enemy patrols, mechanized walkers standing like sentinels at every major intersection, armored convoys rolling through the shattered remains of old highways. The sheer scale of the occupation is overwhelming. But Kane stands still, his eyes scanning the enemy movements, calculating, planning. Vela swallows hard, her hands tightening around her rifle. There are thousands of them, even with the resistance fighters, even with the weapons we took from the refinery. This is suicide. Kane smirks, unfazed. It is only suicide if we fight them on their terms. Juno grins, already guessing the plan. Revik exhales, shaking his head. You are going to say something crazy, aren't you? Kane points toward the heart of the city, the central command tower, a massive structure built atop the ruins of Kayla's old capital. That is their nerve center, their communication hub, their power grid. Everything runs through that tower. We take it down, we take the city. Vela's breath catches. You cannot be serious. That tower is a fortress. They will see us coming before we get within 100 meters. Kane just smiles. Then we make sure they never see us coming. Night falls, and the plan begins. The resistance fighters spread through the outskirts, planting explosives along key roadways, sabotaging enemy supply routes. Rain and Juno slip through the ruins, taking out scouts and sentries before they can raise alarms. The Zoreth believe themselves invincible, but Kane and his team move like wraiths, striking in the darkness, vanishing before the enemy even realizes they were there. Vela follows Kane through the underground tunnels, old sewer lines and maintenance shafts, long abandoned, the perfect path to move undetected. Her heart pounds in her chest as they navigate the darkness. Kane moves without hesitation, as if he has walked these paths before, as if he was born for this war. Above them, the Zoreth patrols remain unaware, the resistance fighters creating enough chaos on the outskirts to keep them distracted. Then, without warning, the first explosion rips through the night, fire and smoke rising from the East District. A supply depot going up in flames, alarms wail across the city as the enemy scrambles to respond. Another explosion, then another, each one pulling Zoreth forces away from the central command tower. This is it, Kane whispers, moving faster now, rifle at the ready. Juno, Revik, take the lower entrance, clear out security. Rain, cover the upper levels. Vela, with me, we hit the control room. They move fast, too fast for the enemy to react. Juno and Revik breach the lower doors, plasma fire lighting up the darkness, bodies dropping before they can even cry out. Rain's rifle cracks from above, picking off enemy officers. One by one, panic spreads through the command center. Zoreth forces spinning in confusion, trying to locate the attackers. Vela sprints after Kane, heart hammering as they push toward the control room. The guards inside barely have time to raise their weapons before Kane cuts them down with brutal efficiency, his movements sharp, precise, terrifyingly effortless. Then they are in the heart of the enemy's command center, the control panels, flickering with data maps of occupied cities, fleet movements, resource supply lines, everything the Zorath have built laid bare before them. Kane moves to the main console, setting down one of the Hellfire charges, the last one, the one that will end this fight, the one that will send a message. Vela hesitates, looking at the screens, at the information, at the sheer scale of the Zorath war machine. If we destroy this place, we lose everything here, all their data, all their plans. Kane looks at her, his expression unreadable. We are not here to steal information, we are here to burn them down. Before she can argue, he presses the detonator, and the world erupts in fire. The explosion tears through the command tower, sending shockwaves across the city. The Zorath forces reel in confusion, their communications cut, their chain of command shattered, chaos spreads like wildfire. The resistance fighters strike from the shadows, taking down enemies before they can regroup. The streets of Kayla become a battlefield, but this time the Zorath are not in control. Vela watches the tower crumble, smoke and fire rising into the sky, and she realizes the truth. They did not just win a battle, they have ignited a war the Zorath are no longer certain they can win. She turns to Kane, who stands among the ruins, watching the fire burn, his face unreadable, but his voice calm, steady, victorious. Told you they were afraid.